And to screw it up less next time, although we can't possibly screw it up as badly as the city is screwing this up. And welcome to This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. This is Mr. John Edward Keogh. He is executive producer of Managing Media. He is president of the Hollywood Film Group and a contributor to This Week in Worcester. Hello, Mr. Keogh.
Hello, Mr. Marino. Salute you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I haven't seen you since last year.
That's true. That is true. We've started off with a fact.
We got lots of facts. We deal in facts. We're facts dealers.
The fact is, this city council meeting on Tuesday is going to be interesting.
It's going to be lit, bro.
The Gaza resolution is back.
Yes, it is.
A bunch of orders held from last week, including the petition from the leadership of both police unions is back, as well as an amendment to that, and a whole. It is going to be a poop show.
It is. It's so I'm wondering what's going to happen. Are some of the union folks coming back? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
In particular, I'm looking to see if Mr. Patron is going to come back because he used the phrase baseless, right? Which baseless means absolutely nothing is true. And of course, the city has since paid out one of the claims in the report, which would then kind of go against his thought about the word baseless, right?
Well, the city will say that because we said it does not mean we're admitting guilt. And of course, they shoved another gag order on that person as well, so they can never talk about what they experienced because they got money for what they experienced.
So here's the thing, Tom. Did you read the gag order yet?
I did not.
I wanted to do this live with you because this was a little sharp.
Explode, ain't it? I'm going to explode.
So it says that they can't talk to the press. Now, the city of Worcester only issues one organization a press pass currently. So since the city entered into the agreement, would it be press that the city has determined? And if that's the case, they just can't talk to the TNG. But they could talk to me, or they could talk to you, or they could talk to
They're probably not going to because they'll be afraid of getting countersued. And which is the point, of course, is that they don't talk.
I'm just saying. If anybody out there knows any of the lawyers, technically the city doesn't think we're priests. Right? Be funny, all of a sudden we get press passes in the mail.
I bet a serious effort to try and reconcile some of these problems that we've had in the city for many, many years involving some within the police department would be the unilateral dismissal or what do you call that? Not dismissal, but the unilaterally lifting every gag order the city's ever entered into, because we should hear from these people and what their experiences are, but we don't care.
But I told you the Supreme Court, there is a chance that they come down with that decision in relation to gag orders. And in many cases, at least in like employment contracts, most companies have moved away from that language, and so that especially some of the bigger companies, like Fortune 100 kind of companies, if they've moved away from it, it makes me think that their law firms believe that the Supreme Court is going to come down against those kind of orders. And municipalities are often way behind the times on legal. It's just that it's the nature of local and state organizations. They often are behind the times from corporations in our country, and so it makes sense that the corporations would already be moving away from that before the city recognized it.
So that's a whole different thing, though, because employment law related to this stuff. It started with non-competes, which are now not legal here, at least in Massachusetts. I think in most of the country as well. But non-compete is different than a you can't talk about this.
So, but a gag order, like using the word gag order, is the judge himself has imposed it. In this case, it was a very similar, phrasing, in that they agreed to it. The only reason that I think the Supreme Court ruling could affect it is because Justice Roberts, in picking up the case in the oral arguments, he specifically mentioned municipalities entering into agreements with people that have been paid out taxpayer dollars, and whether or not this overarching language could be defeated. And I don't know that there really is, if you're a constitutionalist now, right? So this is an interesting thing about the way things work in our country. If you're someone who believes in the Constitution as a single document and it doesn't ever change, which doesn't make any sense. But anyways, whatever. There's no real place in there for creating an agreement that no one could ever look into that has taxpayer dollars associated with it, right? There has to be some public record there. In this case, the city used taxpayer dollars to pay this person. I think Mr. Roberts might be doing something on purpose.
Pay this person our money so they couldn't tell us a thing. It's stunning. It's really stunning.
I don't think it's not really a novel legal argument, right? It actually makes, if you just think about it that way, it's my money, it's your money, it's every person in the city of Worcester who pays. If you go to the gas pump and you pay the local gas tax, right? It's anybody who pays into the city. That money just got used for this thing. We should have a right to know what the details are.
Yeah, look, if we cared about what people have experienced, look, you have to reconcile. You have to, again, I'm at a loss for words, for the right word, but you have to, deal with these things that have already happened, so that you can then prevent them in the future. And we're not doing that.
So I did notice that there's a new argument being advanced, in particular on the social media stuff, and then a little bit I was listening in on a few of the Hank Stoll's shows, and some of the callers calling in, and just there's a new argument being advanced. I find this one very interesting. It's that, well, most of this stuff happened in the past, right? And so you can't take things that happened in the past and apply them to today and have them have the same value. So we understand
2 years ago.
No, well, so that's the thing. So go back and listen to the city manager Batista on Manny's show just right before Christmas, and he said, as a person of color, he understands how people think backwards in time, and then they apply them to today's society, and that so their experiences from when they were growing up are not the same today, but they still feel that way. And I heard that, and I realized what they're doing. It's a new strategy, right? So invalidate current experience as not being as difficult as past experience, right? So then you reduce the strain on the current. So it's like, well, those police officers were from a different time, Tom. So we can't really judge them the same way that we're going to judge today's officers. And my response to that is,
cops that were there in 2022. They changed the whole staff over.
Tom, that was a different time, Tom. Though it was an age that was far in the past, long ago. And so you can't talk about things like that. I mean, we were still in COVID times, and just a different time, Tom. You got to give them they deserve a break, right? You got to give them a break. I'm sorry. This is not something. It's really not a funny subject, but
It's so stupid.
the strategy is really, it's really mind-boggling. It's like, wow, you really, this is, so we're gonna go down this road instead of just doing what makes the most sense, which is, hey, we screwed up and we should fix the things that led to the screw ups. And we're going to do everything we can to do that. That's it. That's all you got to say. And then, by the way, that gives you plenty of time to kick it to the next election. And then some of them can run on, well, you know what? We're working on it. And then new people can be like, we're going to come in there and change it. And then old people can be like, behind the scenes, I've been fighting for it, right? There's all kinds of spin that you could do politically to make that work.
I am so sick of the behind the scenes argument. Listen, if you gave the city manager, as a city council, gave the city manager a stern talking to in your one-on-one, good for you. That's your business.
Yeah, but at this point, I don't
believe you. Not the people.
Yeah, I don't believe anybody who says that anymore. Because if that's how it is, then why aren't you doing it in public? Why if it's a one-on-one conversation? I get it when there's quorum involved, but they break that rule all the time anyways. It's nonsense. It's constant breaking of quorum rules, right? So I'm there in the building all the time, and I'm like, hey, look at this. There's a meeting over here. There's a meeting over there. Everybody's together. Yay. It just doesn't matter. There's group texts. By the way, you know what's funny? When I was on the cable committee, right? One of the things that we had to avoid, because we had to actually follow the open meetings law rule, is that in the email chain, Judy Warren, who's the head of cable services, she could email all the members. But as the chairperson, I could not, because that was a violation of the open meetings law. And that's in the training that the state receives. But we've heard in the council chamber that there are group chats and there are email chains and there's all kinds of stuff going on that are clear violations of all these rules. So it's like these rules don't even matter until they matter, right? They don't matter until they matter.
Well, it's just another example of, but really, I think what this whole argument is, really, the police and the city government in general, all of this stuff can really be boiled down to, there's rules for us and then there's rules for them.
Yeah.
There's the rest of us and then there's them. There's the people that get escorted out of the city hall chamber because people are yelling, and then there's the people who assault people with spray paint and get escorted to their car by the police
and file charges against a grandma, and the court is actually proceeding with that case. It's just oh man. But hey, let me say something real quick, and I have no problem saying this. If you go to Worcester Politics 101, one of the varied Facebook Worcester pages, right? A little shout out to Stevie Quist over there. But anyways, Worcester Politics 101, there was a post about the conflict between Councillor King and Mayor Petty, right? And lo and behold, Mr. Anthony Petroni was on there.
Some people are welcome and some people aren't. I'm blocked.
And so on that thread, Petroni called Councillor King a bully, which blew my mind and made me feel free to respond in this way. I said, "Wow, it's really interesting you calling him a bully, considering what you did to a 17-year-old girl less than 2 years ago on Facebook." Right? And no response, obviously, because he's a coward and he won't respond. But that is like the epitome of exactly what you're saying. He thinks that he shouldn't be held to the standard he's holding Councillor King to. And there's this super, and it's really just super racist narrative that you can't get mad. You can't get mad. And why don't we think about the context of that meeting? Councillor King had to listen while a bunch of police officers got up and told him that there's no racism in the city of Worcester, right? He's the only black man on the council. So right off the bat, that's got to aggravate him, right? So and again, I don't agree with Councillor King a lot, but in this case, I understand how he would feel it. Also, these officers were oppressive in the council chamber. They were yelling and screaming every time one of their people got up there, clapping and cheering, and it went on for extended periods of time. And Mayor Petty did not gavel them down. He did not gavel them down. And then when the Project Priceless girls had several moments where their group was cheering, Mayor Petty gavelled them down. And so then when Councillor King gets to speak about this, which he gets 2 5-minute periods to speak about these different orders, right? Mayor Petty interrupted him. And so I would be frustrated. And Mayor Petty interrupted him several times. Councillor King got frustrated, expressed himself about following the rules, and then Mayor Petty tried to use the point of order mechanism to say that he has the right. However, as my order that I asked for, the rule doesn't say that. The rule doesn't say that the chair can just insert a point of order in the middle of someone's conversation, right? They have to ask for the point of order. But since you're the chair, you can't ask the chair for a point of order. Someone has to ask the chair, right? So you'd have to step down and ask the chair for a point of order to interrupt. That's pretty logical.
No, the chair can call a point of order.
So he interrupted without the point of order, and then he changed his mind. And what he did was he used the phrase "it's not fair" because Councillor King had said the Public Safety Committee was impotent. He used the word impotent. Now, he never used the person's name,
right?
Councillor King. So I'm assuming that Mayor Petty is going to say you have to avoid personality, which is what Mo Bergman referred to when he, got upset about it later on. But he never used Councillor Toomey's name, which is who we're assuming everybody that he's going after, right? But he just said the Public Safety Committee itself is impotent and has done nothing. Then you wrote an article proving the point that the Public Safety Committee has never taken up a police oversight issue in 9 years, right? Now, if that was precedent setting, but the former version of the Public Safety Committee did take up police things in the past. Now, again, it was not like they went into like deep dive, but they did review some things with the police in a different version of that committee. The Appendix B, which covers public safety, says that the public safety's purview is the police department and the fire department. And here's the kicker, Tom, both criminal and civil procedure. That is part of the Public Safety Committee's purview. So it is okay for Councillor King to say that the body is impotent when it's not doing its job. It's supposed to review civil and criminal procedure in relation to the police department, the fire department, and other departments within the city. And it has not done so, at least for the last 9 years, which means it is, in effect, impotent and not operating the way it was intended to be in the charter. And there hasn't been a charter change that I've heard that's been voted on. There's just a legal interpretation put forward by Councillor Toomey. And so, my order.
Which it seems like the solicitor, maybe it happened in reverse. Maybe it's an argument that she got from the solicitor, but they're both advancing the same argument.
Yeah. So the solicitor in their initial. So when I put in the order, the request, and I guess they didn't want me to be so specific. I guess really that's what it was. But the second version of my order is to say, what is the scope? I'm asking the city council to ask the city manager, to ask the city solicitor, to tell the city council what is the scope of the public safety.
Let me just read it. Johnny Keogh, that's you.
That's
requests. Now I understand that this is procedural language, but it's also ridiculous. Request city council, request city manager, request city solicitor, provide city council with a report concerning the purpose and scope of the Standing Committee on Public Safety. Now, there's so many things wrong with this.
No, wait. No, I used that language because Deputy Clerk AJ Pottle, he responded to me very nicely, very nice guy, and he said, "Hey, John, I think that the language would work if you did it this way," and that's where the language came from. So all I did was took their response to my initial request, and I put it in there, and it's on the agenda. So the city clerk and the city solicitor approved my petition.
But let's understand this though. Yeah. Let's understand the mechanics of this. Okay, so you're requesting the city council, the legislative body of the city government, to request the city manager, the head of the administrative branch of city government, to request his own attorney, not personally, but the city solicitor is the city's attorney and works for the manager. Yeah. So he's requesting his attorney to provide city council with a report on what its own committee's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing humanly possible.
Because the city council doesn't know what its own committee is supposed to do because it's operating.
Well, you know what that committee is supposed to do is what city council says it's supposed to do. So why would the solicitor or anyone in the administration, why would their opinion on what this committee does matter at all? It's not their committee.
Right. So so here's the thing. So Councilor Toomey has taken the position, or Chairwoman in this case, Toomey, that they can't do police oversight in that committee, even though it's in the charter, because they can't recommend hiring or firing to the city manager over personnel that he oversees. Now, it's very interesting because he oversees all personnel except for himself, the city clerk. Right? Technically, under the way that the charter is structured. So it basically means every city employee. So that means that if you take the interpretation of Councilor Toomey, and that's the interpretation that she's put forth for the last 9 years, and the city solicitor agrees with, that means the city council has no oversight capability over the entire city government. So that means, in effect, our votes mean absolutely nothing because we have no direct ability to hold anybody in the city accountable. But what I'm saying is this: oversight doesn't just mean hiring and firing.
It doesn't even mean that at all.
Right. It just means, hey, this happened. We think this. Here's a report from the committee to the council saying this is bad or this is good. And then that report goes to the city manager. Then the city manager can do whatever he wants with that report. It doesn't mean that they're giving a specific recommendation on a particular person. But in this case, one of the things that makes a lot of sense to me is, why doesn't the Public Safety Committee oversee the payouts that the city has been just bleeding our tax dollars into for 20 years and see why these are happening? Why are we losing so often? Why?
But won't pay Nat Cosenza, though.
Yeah, we're not going to pay Nat. Although Nat's going to win in court. I mean, it's only a matter of time eventually. So the thing is that whenever these cases get elevated to the next level, and in this case, the one with the young man with the dog, he went to federal court. If you just read the paper, he went to federal court, and the city offered a settlement like within a week, and very, very, very fast, because they knew at federal court they were going to lose.
Well, they were also trying to cover up for the crimes that the officer committed.
And then that's the real big problem. It goes back to Mr. Patron on Facebook. That officer who allowed the police dog to harm that young man to the point where apparently like a chunk of flesh came out of this kid's back. And then he was arrested, and then they didn't give him. There's more. There's like this story is crazy. They didn't give him medical attention for. It's just a really crazy story. But so they end up having to pay him. Fine, he settles. For whatever the settlement agreement is, the money, and then plus he can't talk. But why isn't it?
He actually does not have a gag order.
He doesn't have a gag order.
He does not. Right.
So he can talk about it.
Yep.
So what is the agreement that says that they're not allowed to talk? What does that mean?
Was not in his agreement with the city.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's get him on right now, because I want to talk to him about the situation. Let's talk to these folks, because to me, these are the city council could shift legal from the. Oh man, yeah, that ain't happening, Sean. But that's a good idea. Man, can you imagine that? All the police departments across the state would shake in their boots if something like that happened. Oof, that'd be tough. But so, that's just a question. I just want to know, what's the mechanism? What do the negotiations look like? Why did we end up paying $365? Was there a way that we could have resolved this earlier in the process? What was there multiple exchanges back and forth? How much money? Now, it's not just $365,000. That's what is the payout. We also had the city lawyers having to negotiate with this guy's lawyers, so their time and efforts that we're paying them for is not included in that settlement. So how many hours did they spend working on this project? Was there outside attorneys involved? Did they have to get other counsel? Like, what's all the costs related to this? Could it be even more? Is it close to $500,000? How much time does the city manager have to spend on this? What is the layers and layers of wasted money that's going into these cases? When looking at the video and just the basic police report in that situation, it was clear. It was clear from the get-go. There's no mistake in what he did. The kid was not the person identified. It was not the person in the report. And they knew that, and they tried to cover that up, a crime. And it's just really, really difficult to understand the logic behind this. And then we have the response from the union heads that this is baseless. And then, of course, we're getting hammered left and right, and all the other groups as being anti-police. How does that make me anti-police? You took a dog and sicked it on an innocent bystander who wasn't near the incident in question, wasn't involved, didn't match the description, had nothing to do with it, and you then had to pay it out. How is that? And then you lied about it in your own reporting.
Oh no! Let's be clear. What he did. He charged that kid with crimes.
Yeah, false police reports. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Which is a crime.
Make anti-police?
Was that referred to for prosecution? Of course it wasn't.
Yeah.
He's still on the force.
It's crazy.
So, when people out themselves as the worst among you, and all you do, being police folks, is rally around them because you're protecting your brother, unless he turns into a rat, and then, well, that's the worst thing you can be, Tony Soprano. But when you continue to protect the worst of you, you're screaming at us. And I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. You're screaming at us that the worst of you is more important than any of us. Yeah. You might as well just scream in our faces you hate us. And then when we hate you back, you cry like you're the victim of anti-police sentiment. Like you're the victim. You walk around with guns. You do whatever you want. Nobody does anything about it. You're the victim.
Yeah, I mean, we go back to that day. We were in the hallway. That's the other thing too. I was getting responses from people like, "You don't know what it's like." I'm like, I do know that. I sat in that hallway and watched you guys act like big tough guys, and then in the 3 or 4 times where you were confronted by, and almost in every case by a tiny little lady, you acted like you got slapped in the face or shot from a distance, and you immediately had a huge thing. We saw several confrontations in the hallway, and again, you can dish it, but you can't take it, man. And that's the literal epitome of a bully. Is a bully can beat people up, can push people down, can insult people, but the moment you call them on their behavior, they whine like little babies. And they start whining and crying, and that's it, because they're bullies. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, no one in this conversation has said every cop's a bully. No one said that. I'm just saying the group of people that I saw present that day, they were. There's individual officers within that pile that weren't, including the current chief, who's not. He's not like that. And there's a bunch of other ones that aren't like that. But the fact is that is the representative sample that we all saw. And so how else are we going to view you when that's how you act? That's how you act. And then to go back to the council, when you start, really breaking this thing down with the city manager and the mayor, we just saw another event just in October when people came out and they wanted to be heard in relation to Gaza, right? Which is the other item on our conversation today. And they weren't allowed to speak. But then the 200 plus angry cops all acting in unison, they get to speak.
That wasn't a riot, though. That was
right. They called it a riot. Right, yeah. Which is insanity. By the way, the Telegram and Gazette should resign in shame because they use the word riot. And all the people on Facebook, again, that was a riot. Again, I was there. I was at that one too. And it wasn't a riot. It was a lot of upset people, for sure. They're very upset. But they were upset because of a horrible mishandling of a petition. That's why they were upset. If they had just been given the chance to speak, like they're gonna get the chance to speak on Tuesday because they were slapped down by the ACLU, right? Then that never would have happened. But because of that, you created a negative feedback loop, and then of course you got it. But you want to know what, Tom? None of them did anything wrong. There was no wrapping themselves up and tying themselves off or doing anything violent. They were just upset and they chanted. And what they were chanting was shame for not being allowed to speak. That's not the same thing. So now you see that there's a clear distinctual bias. And then for those of people who are just like now, here, like I have my head down here, and I'm just gonna pop up now, right? Right. Oh, this is happening. Yeah, this has always been happening, but you've refused to acknowledge what's literally right in front of you. I guess the thing that's changed is cell phones. Everything's live now, and so this. By the way, this has been going on this whole time, guys. Everybody, if you just want to know, we've been dealing with this for decades, and you're just looking at it now because it's on Facebook Live. Live on Manny J Media, right? Manny's got the camera right there at the podium, and he's pointing right at it. You can see what you can see, right? So then, people really don't believe unless they see it, man. They really don't.
Yep. So so we can expect related to the ceasefire resolution brought forth by people who did, at least as far long as I've been watching city council in the city, more to bring before, more preparation and more work to bring a petition before the city council than anybody before that I've seen.
1,500 signatures.
Yep. And
by the way, verified signatures by the city clerk's office.
Oh, really?
They submitted them for verification because there was a couple people on Seven Hills Political Dialogue that were saying that a bunch of the people on the list were not residents. And so the organizers went out of their way to provide names, addresses, phone numbers. If you go look at that list, man, they didn't mess around. That's not I don't know that I've ever seen a city councilor who's run for city council that had their voter sheet as organized as that one, because that was super detailed.
What do you need 300 to run for office?
Yeah, 300, and they got 1,500
for one item on one agenda, and it was rejected.
Speak for 3 minutes. By the way, it's only one person gets to speak for 3 minutes. Everybody else is reduced to the 2, right? Because you can only get the 3 minutes when it appears on the agenda for the first time. Which I don't know who's going to be the person who gets to speak for 3 minutes on Tuesday, but hopefully someone gets to get up there and articulate what they're asking for. By the way, again, it's not an anti-Israel petition. You got to read it. Then that goes back to the thing again. No one actually read what the petition says. It doesn't say arrest all the people in Israel and Israel's bad. It doesn't say that. It talks about peace, a mutual disarmament, and a ceasefire between both sides, and it's a cessation of hostilities. It's stopping a war is what this petition asks for. It has no legal power, none, zero legal power. It's just asking the city council to do the same thing that it did last October or 2 Octobers ago for the state of Israel, for the people of Gaza. But it includes the people of Israel too, because by the way, for the city councilors who are on the fence, right? Yeah, that's true. It would radically change. That is a really, really great statement. If all 1,500 people, and maybe I really do hope that the city councilors pay attention to it, and I really hope the organizers take that really seriously, because 1,500 votes could easily change the structure of not only I don't know what districts they live in, but it could easily change all the districts, because all the districts except for Jenny, right? I think every district was settled by less than 500 votes. I think Jenny won by the most, right? So I think it was Jenny. But I mean, District 4 was settled by less than 100 votes. District 5, Attell and Jose was less than 200 votes, which was a big surprise at the time that Jose was that close. There were not George. Well, no, I think George beat no, maybe it was only 400 and change Fianna. I forget what it was. But I mean, most of those races were pretty close. So if the district races were involved with some of these votes, we could have a completely different makeup of the board forever. It would be mad that 10 people out. 10 people out. The one I want to stay. Maybe 9. Maybe 9 people out and 2 can stay. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Well, that's up to voters.
It is up to the voters.
But yeah, it's so this thing will be heard, and it's interesting that the last resolution, of course, was heard about the quote barbaric attacks by Hamas. This no loaded language in this petition about the barbaric destruction of 50,000 lives or 45,000 lives, wherever they're at now. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. And there's probably, I mean, there was a study done at one point that said that you're going to be looking at 200,000 dead once you remove all the remove people from under all the rubble, and actually can count them as deceased. The number's going to be much radically different from what it is.
And from all intents and purposes, we funded this thing. That's what really it comes down to. Is the United States has basically funded this ongoing debacle, and a lot of people just want to not be part of that. You know what I mean? By the way, this is real quick. When you hear people talk about like the money at the national level being given to Israel, like we're going to give $3.5 billion to Israel. That's not for weapons now. That's for weapons in the future. They've already received tons and tons and tons of weapons and have stores of stuff. Same thing with Ukraine. Same thing with India, Egypt, Pakistan, a bunch of the countries that we support with military equipment and sales, right? When you hear this money is usually for like way down the ride. I saw the $8 billion the other day. And by the way, that $8 billion wasn't through a legislative action. It was through an executive action, shifting money from one place to anyways. It's like a whole nother thing that they do all the time that people don't really see. And who wants to be involved with that? It doesn't matter where the bombs are going. I don't want to be involved with that. I don't want people to be hurt. Is that bad?
And it's people seem to get it confused.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're either anti-Semitic or you hate Israel. When a government appoints a minister of national defense that is a convicted supporter of terrorism, that is support for terrorism. If you support this government, you support terrorism, period.
Mm.
There's nothing else to discuss.
I just don't want any kids to die. Is that bad of me? Does that make me bad?
Nobody cares about that, especially brown children. Nobody cares about dead brown children.
I mean, it just doesn't. I don't want kids to die at all. I want kids to get a chance to live and survive. Why does that? And you're telling me that there's not a solution where children don't die. There's not a solution. That's the only solution.
No, because the contingents, the far right wing contingents on both sides, Hamas and the current government is a far right wing psychotic terrorist government in Israel. They both want all the land.
So
Israel is currently cleaning out the north of Gaza to take it.
It's just crazy to me. Just crazy
So yes, and I know entirely too much about the subject. He's referring to a man named Baruch Goldstein, who walked into a mosque in Israel and gunned down a whole bunch of people while they were praying.
It's crazy.
And this guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir, the current Minister of National Security, has, in the last, since being appointed to that position, has appeared at memorials or events, commemorating both Baruch Goldstein, who's a hero to these settler psychotypes, and also Mir Kahane, who was actually a Brooklyn-born rabbi who was a psychotic, despicable human being and was killed far too late.
I just don't want to hurt anybody. Even these folks that have done really terrible things. I mean, and that's I guess I separate myself from everybody that wants people to die. I don't want anybody to die. I don't. When President Biden recently pardoned almost everybody facing the federal death penalty, I said a little thank you in my heart, because even those folks that did terrible things, I don't want anybody to die. And I want people to be given the chance to maybe contribute to our society in some way, shape, or form. And it's like there's this bloodlust in our world. Very much our world is a culture of death and is focused on hurting and harming and not uplifting people. And it's so hard to want to do that, like where you want to lift people up and help people in the face of that kind of culture, and so just I, I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to support those things, so I don't
Yeah,
understand why people can't see that. I don't get
right.
that.
Well, I mean, it's I mean, to the people involved, it's you know, I mean, Hamas says all kinds of stupid things, but I mean,
Yeah,
who
we
cares what they
all.
say? They're scumbags. I don't know
But
who.
it's like
A
it's
few
like if
people
you
disagree
don't
with that.
spend exactly to the second the same amount of time criticizing the other side, then you're immediately like considered in the camp of the enemy. And it's like we know that though. Like it's not no
Yeah,
one's saying that. No one knows that. Of course, it's the same thing with the Ukraine thing. I don't want to give money to Ukraine. I don't look at this guy as a hero. I don't. But I also don't want Russia to take over Ukraine. I don't want either of those things to happen. And so like you get stuck into these stupid conflicts that I don't want anything to do with because you have two groups of people that are not great humans, you know what I mean? So it's like if you don't if you say I don't want Ukraine to get all these weapons, I don't want to waste my money on it. People will be like, "You support Putin." And so it's like, "No, that's not true either. I don't want that dude taking over the Crimea and just, trying to reinstitute the Soviet Union because that's how he grew up in his mind. So he's got to get back, all of Eastern Europe. I don't want that either. But the solution for these World War II relics, right, that still run most of national governments around the world is kill, bomb, kill, strife, bomb, bullets, planes, tanks, bomb, kill, kill, kill. That's all they think they want. That's all they want to do. And I just don't, that's not what I want to be involved with. And it's not, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't support it and I'm out. I'm out.
yeah, I get it. I mean, although it's a whole bunch of money that's been sent to Ukraine, it's probably the best foreign policy investment this country's made in 50 years. Because if Ukraine turns into Ukraine in name only and really Russia, you will
Yeah.
see Cold War. You will see Cold War 2.0, and that means there is just no limit to what the defense budget could go. It could go to 1.5 trillion easily. So
It's nonsense. Yeah. No. And meanwhile, while we're dealing with all this nonsense, the world is just overrun by constant cyber warfare with every bot known to man attacking us at all times every day. Now you have to have 17-step verification to get into your cell phone. You put your face up to it and it wants to
relax.
It's just ridiculous, Tom.
Where you get us now like four subjects detached here.
They're all connected.
I just real quick. God, I think Kahani was killed in 83. I might have that wrong though. I don't know why. No, that can't be right. I don't remember. But while he started a party, but Kahani was from Mir Kahani was from Brooklyn, moved to Israel, was one of the most radical people in Israel at the time. Started a party called Koch. He was the only person ever elected to the Knesset for that party. He was so radical for Israel at that time that they made his party illegal. They banned his party.
When was this?
Huh?
When was this?
God, I'd have to look it up. I don't remember. But here we are. I think, man, it might have been the 90s. I don't remember.
So the reason I asked that question is because who was part of the power structure that banned it? The guy who's in charge now. He's been Netanyahu's been in charge. Has been a part of the power structure since the 70s, right? And so they like it's the same group of people that have been constantly going back and forth in a cycle of war and death and war and death and war and death. It's the same thing. And that was a convenient classification at the time. It didn't work for them then, but now they brought them back out of it, So I'm sure there's some justification. There's a book somewhere that some weird war hawk wrote that explains why they did that and why they didn't do it. But they're all interconnected, Tom. All those things are interconnected.
So Kahani's founded it in 71. It failed in many elections. It won a single seat in 84, so I was pretty close. And then by the next election, it was banned from running. It's classified as a terrorist organization in Israel. It was here until about 6 months before. Guess who became its Minister of Finance? One of Kahani's followers.
Well, of course, right.
So that's how much Israel has changed in 40 years.
Right.
Is it went from the ideas of this fringe, psychotic, disgusting lunatic are now mainstream.
Right. And I mean, and often that kind of stuff, just like what some of the subjects that we're talking about, when people don't confront behavior and ideas and ideologies that have this kind of destructive intent, then eventually it can be mainstreamed and become something that people are being taught and being justified through and hey, well, actually this is a good response because of this and that, and it becomes politicized to the point where they're teaching it in school, and now all of a sudden people are really thinking that this is a normal way to think in response to whatever they've othered, right? So whatever in this case they've othered all the settlers, all the folks in Gaza and in the West Bank for 40 years, as if those kids whose dads were killed in those wars are bad automatically because their dads were in those wars, right? So it's like now the cycle just continues to repeat. It's just such a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad deal.
I got it wrong. Actually, it was barred from running in '88, barred from running in '92, and then banned outright in '94.
All right.
Under the 1948 anti-terrorism law in Israel.
Good job.
Anyway,
fact checking.
So
deal facts on the show.
So I guess the ideas of a man who was an outcast in Israeli society largely. One of his followers is now Minister of National Defense. So that's where we're at. So if you want to cry about terrorism, cry about the other side's terrorism too.
Right.
Rather than, October 7th. Look, October 7th was horrific. I don't know, they've killed about 50 times more people.
Yeah.
Maybe stop. But they don't care about those hostages at all. At all. And they don't care about they just want the people to go.
But and to get back to the how it's connected to Worcester politics, none of this that we talked about really has anything to do with this petition. The petition is asking for peace.
Stop. Yep.
That's it. It's just saying, hey, and what they're asking is they're asking the city council to make a non-binding proclamation, and the proclamation would be the city council of Worcester doth say we want peace in the Middle East. That's really what it comes down to. There's gonna be, there's language and all that. And you know what's interesting, Tom? I did look this up to make sure. If the proclamation is voted through, let's say you get 6 votes and it's passed, the 5 dissenting councilors do not have to sign the proclamation, right? And it's happened several times in Worcester's history where proclamations were not signed. And in fact, we have a great example because we had a dissenter for the October 7th proclamation, right? There was I believe 2 did not sign and didn't vote for it, and there was an abstention. I'm sorry, I don't know if there was a vote against or an abstention.
No, there was 2 votes. Yeah,
2 votes.
2 and a tell. 2 and a tell.
So the proclamation that was then put forward, which is again non-binding, just a ceremonial thing, they don't have to sign it. So if the councilor's in question, and realistically, there's one councilor that would need to switch votes for this to happen. There's one person, right? And if you follow the city council, I don't want to put them out there right now on the show and put pressure on them, but there's one person who, if they switched 6-5 the other way, then there's a real chance that then the other 5 people that apparently it's like life or death for them, they don't have to sign it. Don't sign it then. You know what I mean? Don't sign the thing. Don't go to the ceremony. Like be bitter. Be visibly thing. But I think that the part of the reason there's such a pushback, Tom, is because they don't want that visual.
That's right.
Right? They don't want that visual of not showing up to the ceremony, which calls for peace, because they want to.
Right. Well, I mean, and remember the Telegram reported, I think it was 8 or 12 members of a person who lives in Worcester, of their family, died in Gaza during this war. And that, as far as I know, there was no connection to Worcester at all. Thankfully, for October 7th.
And if you go back,
what are we doing?
But and then if you go quickly to the the back to the day when they weren't allowed to speak. The young lady who was speaking at the podium, born in Worcester, raised in Worcester. She happens to be of. By the way, she's not even. She was wearing a hijab, but she's not Islamic. She's Eastern Eastern Orthodox, right? Which is very similar. That's a Christian version, a Catholic thing over there. And her cousin was killed in Gaza on a vacation. Another person from here went there and died. So the thing that she wanted to talk about was a person who went to Worcester high schools, right? Legitimate, real stories, folks, about local people. And our city council said, no, you can't talk about a kid who went to high school here to our schools. It went with our kids and was on. I mean, I can't imagine why why they were in that area, But again, when you sit in a restaurant, and you're getting bombed by drones. That's what happens. That's a way of life over there. But that story wasn't allowed to be told, and so I hope she comes back and gets to tell her story, right? So, oh man. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get my thought out. So the week that was reported, the multiple family members of this person were killed in Gaza. Right. Who lives here? The Telegram reported this, and thanks, Mark Frost. You are a Kahanis terrorism supporter. Congratulations. The same week that was reported in the Telegram, just days later, Councilor Toomey decided to tweet out, "I support Israel." So I'm glad you're concerned with your constituents.
But no one is saying that they don't support Israel. No one is saying that. And this is the exact kind of culture of death statement and comment that we see that just really you clearly weren't listening to the entire conversation, didn't hear what we were saying, and you have never read the petition. You just react because what people tell you to react is how you react. And this guy's a common troll. He's all over the internet doing this kind of stuff on local Worcester Facebook all the time. But just to direct my point to him, the petition is asking for peace, and you're calling for people to die. So that's what people need to know about Mark Frost, is that Mark Frost is a murderous thug who wants people to die. That's what he's down for. He likes to kill women and children. That's what he's for. Because
he thinks it's a great idea that the Minister of National Security in Israel is a convicted terrorist.
He's pro murdering babies. That's what Mark Frost is. And so everybody that's watching here, I don't know if Mark realizes now at the level of the audience that we happen to have at this point, in the thousands of people who view this show, I hope everybody who knows Mark knows that he loves to murder children. Good job, Mark. Solid move on your part. You support the murdering of babies. Good job, buddy. Solid move. This guy's just ridiculous. He's just ridiculous.
There's a reason no country. What is he even talking about? There's a reason no country took them in. They live there, stupid.
They're from. No. In this case, he's responding to the two stories that you were talking about. They're from here. They're from here. They're from here. Oh my goodness. The one girl was born and raised here, right? But because she wears a different outfit, he by the way, she's probably more Christian than you'll ever be, dude. You know what I mean? Well, you're wrong about that, buddy, because we happen to be doing pretty well.
Well, thanks for the Kahanis terrorism. Yeah, try me, Mark. Try me.
Don't even waste our time with this dude. It's just he's just looking.
Bonafide terrorist in the chat. Unfortunately for you, Mark, I know more about this topic than you'll ever know about any topic in your entire life. So
plus he'll just block us, just like Colleen West, just like that group of people. They'll never have an actual conversation. They just like to murder people. That's their pro-murder, Actually, I'm in my office. You're more than welcome to come down 130 Elm Street, Hollywood Film Group's office. It's not my mom's basement. It's literally my office, but that's okay. You're more than welcome to come visit me. Come set up an appointment.
You don't need an appointment with me.
It is. Just ignore him.
Anyway, I want to talk real quick before we get out of here about year two. We read one of them about the Standing Committee on Public Safety, but you had another like it's a football game.
Right, exactly.
These people.
And
I'm just cheering for my team because I'm too daft to know anything.
Sorry to everybody else who's watching, who's texting me on the phone, that we're paying attention to this silly chat when we shouldn't be. Well, I'm sorry. We're
right.
We're wasting time. Yeah.
You know, my the red alert went on. I started hearing the beeping.
I'm with you, dude.
But you also asked. We talked about this a little bit. You also have a petition. Again, the runaround. Request City Council, request City Clerk. Read the exact wording of Rule 15. Relinquishing the chair for the purpose of expression. Explain.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so in this particular case, the argument between Councilor King and Mayor Petty is not just something that boiled over that night. This is kind of going back and forth. Mayor Petty has every right to express his opinion, but there's a specific a process that the chair takes the floor. In this case, he should take the floor after Councilor King finishes and then express himself in response, which, by the way, every councilor can do in response to a councilor's statement on a particular agenda item. So they could all come and say, I would like to say something to this councilor. And but that's what the rule says. He needs to relinquish the chair, which then Vice Chair King would then take the chair and then give in that case, Councilor Petty, who becomes a councilor at that point, the opportunity to speak from the floor. And this has been happening. This is not the first time this has happened, and it just needs to be reinforced. Technically, according to the charter, that is the clerk's responsibility, is to read the rule when one of the counselors breaks procedure. That is in the charter, right? So, Rule 14 is related to not attacking people with personality except through a point of order, related to policy only. So you can't say anything like, I can't say, Tom, you suck, right? We can't be doing that, but you can respond to policy through a point of order. So you could interrupt someone through there, but the chair has his own rule, Rule 15, and I'm asking the clerk to read it. And so I think the clerk has to read it now that it's on the agenda. I don't think that it's a votable petition. Is my understanding in my correspondence with the clerk. I think the clerk just has to read. Whenever a citizen asks for the reading of a rule, the rule is read. So hopefully the rule will be read, and then it'll be heard by the councilors. That's it. That's really all I want. I just want a reminder. And it's not to shame anybody, but we really should be following the rules, and we shouldn't be interrupting only really one councilor, right? Like, because that's really what we're seeing. It's obvious and open. We're not seeing the same level of interruptions go towards, Councilor Calorio, who doesn't really speak a lot, right? So, I mean, there's really like a strange attempt. I love Nico. I do love Nico, even though I called for him to resign, but I love him. I think he's great. I don't have a problem with him. I think that certain things that, like, you have to, like, articulate like a more difficult or a crazier position sometimes to get people to come back to like the middle ground, that's the only way sometimes to get people to pay attention. In this case, Nico was great. His staff, AJ, they're really good staff over there in the city clerk's office. I also work in the elections division, and I know the group over there. I can't say a negative thing about them. They do work hard, and I wish they were in charge of more stuff. How about that?
Yeah, you called for them to resign.
Yes, I did, but I still want him to be in charge of stuff. He was never going to resign. It was an intentional prop. It was a stand-up comedy moment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was standing behind you, and I'm like thinking about what I'm going to say, and I'm listening, and I'm like hearing you. And I'm going, what's he doing right now?
You sounded reasonable after me.
I mean, and that's a feat to make me sound reasonable. And then I remember, I think you left. Oh, yeah. I missed you on the way out or whatever, because I came home and started messaging you like, "What are you doing?"
I did laugh. It was funny. Actually, it was funny because Mayor Petty had said something to me And I was like, he said something about the council being in charge, and I was like, doesn't look like it. And I laughed and went out the door. Yeah, because I got in trouble for that too a little bit.
Um, there was also something I wanted to just mention real quick. I think it's way at the bottom. I think it's actually was from under suspension last week, and I don't remember it. But it was, I mean, not last week, last meeting. But that meeting was 700 hours long, so
Yes,
I might have checked out and not known it. It was Petty's order, something about rules that seemed in direct response to that situation. Of course, now I can't find it.
So that it was placed on there by Mayor Petty, and it seems a direct shot at.
Here it is. Request Standing Committee on Municipal and Legislative Operations hold a public hearing relative to public officials using remote participation at City Council and standing committees meetings that includes a review of any potential limitations and/or options associated, and also same committee review best practices and rules used in other municipalities relative to the conduct of its public officials during meetings, both by Mayor Petty. I just wish we wouldn't look at what other cities do so selectively.
Well,
let's look at what their committees do and the power they have.
Yeah. So the thing here is that I really wish that there was somebody who would tell Mayor Petty about some of the decisions that have come down from the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts and the Supreme Court of the United States. So a couple things, right? One, technically, if you wanted to, Tom, you could go stand at the podium, and for your 2 minutes, you could just drop F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. That is protected speech, and you have the right to do it. And it doesn't matter about Mayor Petty's rules of decorum, which he has enforced in an illegal fashion, because that is technically against the law for him to tell someone you can't swear it. Now, there is a line that speech crosses into, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you. And when you start using that language, that is a threat. So there's this thing on the internet that Councilor King was threatening Mayor Petty. And there's some folks who believe that but he never used the words, I'm going to hurt you or I'm going to do anything. He yelled loudly, follow the rules. He never swore. He was very frustrated, and he said, follow the rules. And Mayor Petty's response was, stop threatening me. That's not a threat. That's just someone yelling at you. Right. So
I think he said, don't try and intimidate. I think what he actually said was, don't try and intimidate me.
Yeah, like that, like follow the rules. By saying follow the rules, you're intimidating. And I've engaged with a bunch of people online, including the loser that was in the chat earlier, about this exact issue, because there's this concept that you can't get upset, in the city council. That's the other thing, though, is related to mobile participation, right? So the thing is the law was changed during COVID. So now you can have mobile participation. So this is actually a waste of resources, because the law was changed during COVID. So mobile participation is now a way of life. So unless the state legislature, which we know moves really, really fast around here to get things done, right? Unless the state legislature is going to review that and change it, it doesn't matter, because it's a state law now. It's not a municipal law, it's a state law. So looking at other municipalities doesn't mean anything, because the state allows mobile participation for municipalities, whether it's town selectmen, mayors, councilors. As long as they appear, the city has to offer an opportunity. Same thing for public participation, which, by the way, I think is a great thing, because I don't want to go to the city hall anymore. People are coughing all over me. Or if I have a cold, I want to be able to, if I want to say something, I could go online and say it from online. There's nothing wrong with that. We're doing this remotely, apparently from my mom's basement. My mom lives in Minnesota, Tom. Like, how could I do that? That would be amazing.
So I must watch internet on Tuesday, because it is going to be something.
Manny will be there. Right, we'll see how it goes. So we're over an hour. Let's talk real quick about our last. This is not a normal subject for this week in Worcester, but I would like to address.
We do sneak in a sports topic once in a while.
Yeah, I'd like to address the firing of head coach Gerard Mayo from the New England Patriots. And of course, I think most people realized this was coming. I think that a lot of people thought this the season was really bad in a lot of different ways. But I want to make my position clear. The debacle of the last 5 or 6 years is 100% squarely at the feet of, in the hands of, on the shoulders of, and to the fault of Robert Kraft. He has all the blame, all the blame, all the blame. And it starts with his kowtowing to Belichick about Brady. You had the greatest player in the history of sports, and you let him go because your coach was a little pissy. You're a billionaire, and it's just ridiculous. Just keep Brady, and none of this would have happened. And then when Belichick, and you make a deal where Belichick goes at whatever point, give him a bunch of money and let him sail off into the sunset. Now Brady and Belichick both look like geniuses for getting out when they did. Although Belichick did not want to leave at all, we know that, right? And now we have to deal with another really bad season. But I want to say this to the people online, the modern Patriots fans. So these are like kids that are like 33 and under. You are all a bunch of whiny babies. You have no idea what it's like to follow a team and have to actually care about your team when they suck. You have no idea about Rod Rust. You have no idea about Bruce Armstrong and Ben Wintercoats before Drew Bledsoe and all the other ridiculous Dick McPherson and some of the terrible, terrible Patriots teams. You had a big streak of winning, and you think that's how it's supposed to be. And that's not how it works, folks. That's not how it works. You're lucky you're not Cleveland.
I was just going to say, Shawnee hit it right on the head. All those names you dropped, and you don't drop Steve Grogan. Shame on you.
Grogan. See, but Steve Grogan was a good player. I love that guy. He was awesome. He was a warrior. But that was before they really changed the rules for quarterbacks. That dude got destroyed on a regular basis. I never seen anybody get hit like that guy. I think we talked about it. There was a game where Tony Eason started, got a concussion on the first play. This is in like 91. I was 10. So 91, 92, the one of the Rod Rust years, right? Or the Rod Rust year. Tony Eason got a concussion on the first play of the game. They brought Steve Grogan in, who was like broken in like multiple places. He got sacked like immediately, like 5 or 6, 7 times. It was crazy. And then they brought Tony Eason back in, clearly with a concussion, and just had him hand the ball off the rest of the game. So it was just so horrible.
I just love how they go out and beat Buffalo and lose the first round. Number one.
Yeah, they lost that. And so they just added on ignominy, just the worst. But the reason I brought up that is because I figured we'd have a chance to talk a little Patriots, and we get a different favorite thing because we haven't done this yet.
Well, hold on. I have a comment.
Oh yeah, go.
Mayo's only been a position coach before now, and then they elevated him head coach. Set up to fail, awful. And it's probably going to take a toll on his career as a coach because he's not. You'd imagine he's going to go back to a position coach. Maybe he gets a coordinator job, but he's set up to fail.
Belichick hires him in North Carolina.
That'd be hilarious. So he was set up to fail. It will end up working out. They'll get Vrabel. There's reporting today that Vrabel only interviewed with the Jets this week to put pressure on the Patriots. And he had a good run in Tennessee, and he's the best option, and they'll be better for it. But it sucks for Mayo. He gets set up to fail.
And I want to say this. I don't agree with anybody who's like Mayo sucks. No, Mayo was set up and put in a position. They put him in a position to fail, and they lucked into Drake May. They really did, because I don't want to hear any revisionist history.
Yeah, they took the guy that was left.
They took the third guy in a 3-quarterback draft, and they got lucky that he's good. And he's good. He looks clearly good. And by the way, I haven't watched games in years because there's just no interest, no reason for it. But it looks pretty good. He looks pretty good, And so you give him the chance. Vrabel's a guy who knows what he's doing. By the way, this has got to hurt Kraft. Vrabel's a Belichick trained dude. It is what it is. He comes from the system. They use a similar system, and Vrabel's just that guy. So it is what it is. But there's a lot of. I just don't want Mayo to be the guy that it's like it was all his fault, because it wasn't. He's not the fault guy. It's Robert Kraft. Bob Kraft.
Mayo doesn't put Mayo is the general manager. Doesn't put the roster together. The roster's trash. So
yeah, Elliot Wolf is a bum too. They should fire him too. Fire him too, because don't let him don't let him run the thing for Vrabel. Get rid of that guy. Get somebody else. Let Vrabel pick his guy.
No, it's not confirmed, but it's pretty out there. There's lots of reports. Vrabel, that's his.
Yeah.
He's probably would be the Jets' choice if the Patriots job didn't open up, because if that job opens up, that's what he wants.
All the like the big heavy hitters like locally, like Ben Volin and those guys, they were all as soon as Vrabel interviewed with the Jets, they were like emergency meetings are being held in Foxborough. This was planned. I mean, there's some people out there that think Mayo really coached his butt off today to win just to screw him. Which if he did, good for you. Good for you, Gerard. Yeah. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve the number one pick.
All right. To our final segment.
By the way, everybody who is still watching the chat, hundreds of people on X, the app formerly known as X, or formerly known as Twitter, and all the people on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere. I know we don't have an audience according to one particular dude, but all of those of you that are watching, this is the best part of the show. This is where I asked Tom about his favorite things. And since we were just talking about football, I haven't done this yet. Tom, and you cannot choose Tom Brady. Out the door.
Don't worry.
Who is your favorite Patriot of all time?
Oh, I mean, hold on. Well, hold on. We have to address. First of all, I want to address. Shawnee said Mayo can go to the Jets. The Jets are actually going to interview Rex Ryan, and that seems appropriate.
Bring back Rex.
My favorite Patriot. Oh God. I mean, I was never a Patriots fan.
That's true. That's true.
My favorite football player of all time, Dan Marino, hands down.
Okay. You Dolphins guy?
Yeah.
A Miami guy? That's all right.
Yeah. My grandmother brought me a shirt. It had my name on it. I was like 4. I'm in. I'm in for life.
My Patriot is going to be so well, some people might get this guy, but my favorite Patriot it's not even close. It's not even remote. There's this guy, and then there's like, stone steps and a valley and like trekking down a moon is Sam Gash, fullback for the Patriots in the 90s. Sam Gash was by far my favorite Patriot of all time. Back in the day before concussions really came to be, like a thing that people talked about, because they didn't talk about it back then. This dude, he made Curtis Martin's career. I don't care what anybody says. Curtis Martin was a great running back, but Sam Gash made Curtis Martin who he was. And he was just a great, great player. One of the first fullbacks you used to see do the dump offs kind of stuff. Bledsoe used him a lot. I love Sam Gash. Sam Gash was a great guy, stand-up dude.
Who was the wide receiver on the first championship team?
Deion Branch?
Before him. I mean, he might have been on the team, but who's the guy? He had been there 100 years. He was at the kind of the end. Was it Troy Brown? Yeah, Troy Brown. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Troy Brown. He's a receivers coach for them now. So.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Well,
one of those.
He probably doesn't have a job after this week. But I'll go with Troy Brown for favorite Patriot. I couldn't think of his name for the life of me, but I'll go with Troy Brown for my favorite Patriot.
He's a great player. Troy Brown, great player, two-way guy.
He comes from like that. He comes from like the big dumb guy from Washington's era, but still played in the Brady era.
Yeah. The big dumb guy from Washington.
Bledsoe.
Oh my God!
I'm bad with names today.
You have no idea how much fun the show really is. You really have.
I mean, he is. I mean, he was good on the Tom Brady roast, but I mean, he's generally a big dumb guy. I don't really know if he's dumb. He looked dumb out there with his big hobbling around, getting killed by the dude on the Jets there. What was that guy's name? Mo.
No, he's talking about Bledsoe from Washington. Mo. Oh yeah, the guy who killed him almost
literally almost killed him. Yeah.
Yeah, because he got his lung pierced or something, right? There was a
and that led to the Brady experience.
Yeah, the greatest player in the history of football.
The most pretentious,
super
douchey human being.
Let me also say this. By the way, Brady, greatest football player I've ever seen play, right? But his public personality, he's the epitome of the B word. That is Tom Brady to a T, man.
No, I don't even think that. I think douche is the right word.
Yeah, douches are soft. Ooh, like on South Park, the douche of the universe. Remember that that episode? Was it actual? I'm sorry. Tom Brady should have won that award. Yes, he should. Oh my God, he's horrible. I watched a few of the clips of him doing he's just selling snake oil to people. Just pretending he's a moral giant while he's just oh my goodness. I can't deal with that. Don't take public positions like that. Don't pretend to be something you're not. You're just, you know what I mean? It's okay. We're all sinners, dude. None of us, we're all filthy. Stop acting like you're. That's why the Robert Kraft thing really sticks out to me, Tom, because he presents himself as like, I've never done anything wrong. Bella, I only went with Bill because I was loyal to Bill, and I'm sorry, and it was my loyalty was my only problem. It's like you go to a job interview and you're like, you ask the person, what's your biggest flaw, and they're like, I'm overly loyal to people. A real flaw? That's a fake flaw. Don't say that. Say a real flaw. What's wrong with you? Tom Brady,
Yeah,
I don't ever hear him ever say anything's wrong. Nothing's ever his fault. So,
I mean, well, I mean, look, the all-time winning record comes from the coach from my team who never won a thing. He's hands down the best coach and stuff. But, I mean, look, he was so far ahead of the league for so long that it makes sense that he stayed static, and eventually people pass it by. That's just life.
Yeah, that's how it is in every sport. You get a guy. I mean, look at right now. Go down. Look at San Antonio, the Spurs. Greg Popovich literally has had multiple strokes, and they're still trying to bring this dude back. Let him go home. He won you 5 championships. Let him go home and rest. The dude needs to take a nap. Like why are you going to run them? They do that to every old coach and every old player. Just let them go. To be honest with you, Brady stepped away when he was still good. So good, good for him.
What do you mean? He's 44 or something.
Yeah, and he threw 40 touchdowns and threw 4,500 yards that year. He was still a great quarterback. It's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he was the championship level that he was just a couple years before. But what I'm saying is he was still a good quarterback, Pro Bowl kind of quality kind of guy, and he stepped away before he really sucked. You know what I mean? And that's good. That's very rare that happens. You know what I mean? Like Jordan should have stayed retired. He shouldn't have came back to the Wizards. The only reason people question Jordan and LeBron is because of that Wizards time. That's really what it is. You know what I mean? If he had just stayed retired, he would have been no question. He's the greatest, but he didn't, and so it opens the door.
I can see his face.
Lenny
Wilkins.
Yeah. Again, another guy. Remember, because he had that streak going a season after season, and they kept bringing the guy back. It's like, dude, give him a break.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the end of sports talk.
Yeah, at 120. We're under 120 this week.
Yeah. So tune in on Tuesday. We'll have a whole thorough recap on next Sunday. We do this every week at 8:30 or thereabouts. We say it's an hour. As you can see, we're at an hour 20 or so now, so we run over.
People don't know what we're reacting to though all the time. They don't know what we're seeing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. So we do this every week at 8:30. It is myself and Mr. Keogh. We usually have 3 or 4 things that we talk about and 400 other things to get in the mix because John can't stay on topic. But
I can't. ADHD, baby, all the way.
But until next week, when we will try to screw it up less, have a great week. See you all soon.